Well, personally, some people are merchants. There's such a thing as a merchant class. Some people are merchants. They think like merchants. When I was in college, we had this dude friend. He was Greek, and a lot of Greeks, they immigrated, didn't have nothing, and the story is, and he had a last name. I won't say because some people would know the last name. It's irrelevant. And then a word got out to friends from, how they make their money. I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, they sell utensils. Never would have dawned on me, right? My father's an engineer. My surroundings, everybody was an engineer. So they all work for firms doing engineership. One of them is a doctor, you know what I mean? So the merchant class wasn't in my surroundings. So when I start to mix with these different people, I'm like, of course he's uneducated. To be an engineer, you have to be educated. So the uneducated merchant class are selling utensils in all the Greek restaurants in the city. And that would never have dawned. Then, of course, to my mind, I said, well, yeah, of course, somebody has to buy forks, knives, spoons, plates, tables. Then they expanded their shit, of course, over the years. And I guess the guy took over. I don't know what they're doing. It's not my concern. But I didn't grow up with a business mindset because it's not in my surrounding and it's not really it's not my personality. It wasn't my interest. As a kid, I was interested in sports. I was interested in, dare I say, secret knowledge. How does behind work? Psychological stuff, understanding people. So the idea of doing business it didn't cross my mind. Yet there are some people who are like that. I remember we had this dude, he was from Czechoslovakia, I guess. And this guy decided to create a newspaper. We were in private school, so he decided to create his one-page newspaper in which he wrote all kinds of stuff, and he got in trouble. and then in my brain, because I'm like, who the fuck does that, right? I didn't understand. It didn't dawn on me. It was so not in my surrounding. Years later, we had the high school reunion, and this guy was creating. First, he did the newspaper, then he would start promoting bands, and next thing you know, years later when I meet him, he's creating events, and I don't know where in Europe for Beyonce and whatnot. As a super manager, right? Super producer, event manager, whatever you want to call that. Again, at the time, it didn't dawn on me. It didn't make sense to me. My brain didn't think this way. In retrospect, now I realize, yeah, there's some people who think this way. My little buddies, all of which were all Middle Eastern, most of us are, like I said, our parents were professionals, engineers, so everybody thought the same way. We had to go to school, you have to be good in science. That's just kind of right. And my father had a friend who worked for big firms. He was a little odd, because he was an engineer, of course, but working in, sometimes firms hire engineers who are no longer working as engineers, just doing other things. He was a little different, because his brain thought different. But at the time, he didn't understand. And I remember he wanted his daughter to be a doctor. And he said, no, better yet, she should be dentist, because it's better for business. And I remember hearing this and my brain going, huh? Then of course, you think about it. You're like, yeah, of course. From that point of view. So it's a point of view. It's a way of looking at things. And if you're born in it, naturally you think this way. If you're not born in it, eventually when you have to deal with the reality of money, then you could choose to start to get educated on business. It may be to your advantage. Maybe you just want to get a job. It's irrelevant. So in my growing up, it wasn't in my sphere of influence. And I just didn't care. I never cared for the world. I had no interest in it. No interest in politics, no interest in business, no interest in money. Money was, what's money? I don't even understand. Because I was in a favorable condition, so I didn't miss anything, so I had space. And I really used the space to enjoy myself, to play sports, and to do what I do best, which is to think, even back then. But eventually, you have to grow up. I started going to school. I went to an engineering school. I did a lot of school. I did engineering school. I detested it. Did, I guess, 5-6 semesters. Then I said, I don't want to do this. So then what am I going to do? So I'm like in a world where everything is university. So I don't know anything else. Never thought of it. Even if I would have wanted to do business, it would have been like some of my other friends. You're going to go do a bachelor's in finance, bachelor's in marketing, bachelor business school, right? So I'm not going to go study in business. I don't even know what the point is. I don't even understand it. And I had a buddy of mine who's studying in finance. I'm like, what the fuck is studying in finance? It didn't make no sense, right? And I had a friend of mine, his brother, he had studied in engineering. I think he got his bachelor at 21. He was like a geek. And then decided he wanted to get into business, was reading the stock markets and stuff like that. And we found him very unusual. And he'd think unusually. And he'd bring up concepts to us. It's like, you see these shoelaces? You see the plastic tip? That's a guy who invented that at some point. You know how much money he made? Stuff like that, right? And all we're concerned with is our little sports, right? Going out, getting drunk, smoking weed, picking up, getting laid. And he's coming up with these ideas. It was very foreign to me. This is what I remember. And after I finished the party, I got interested in, if I can call it, spirituality, and had no concern with business. 0, nil, nada. I didn't see the point. Besides money, I didn't see the point. So money for me was never a motivation. It's funny. I don't care about money. I still don't care about money. But for some people, money is a motivation. And that for me was a very odd thing. I didn't understand these people. Why are you doing this? Who the fuck wants to sell? Once I had a neighbor, so I bumped into him. He was also Greek. I guess I got a lot of Greeks in my life. I says, yo dude, so what do you do for a living? I sell buttons. I'm like, what? That's way later when I was much more mature and I had a greater sense of business. And immediately clicked and I just saw the whole business plan in my mind. I immediately understood. But I never met a person who sells buttons. And he had a big smile on his face. I sell buttons. So you like selling buttons? Oh yeah, I love selling buttons. And in my brain, of course, I'm seeing the business opportunities, how he's going to China and he's working with his brother and whatnot. And buttons, which at the time I totally understood. And then there's the other part of my brain that says, who the fuck wants to sell buttons? That's me. You want to spend your entire life selling buttons. Who the fuck wants to sell buttons? And what kind of woman wants to fuck a guy to sell buttons? But at the end of the day, it's about money. So that's their scheme. So that it was his mom who was a seamstress who decided to get into the business of selling buttons. This is when we still were in Canada or America, when it still had this industrial complex where they built shit. They actually made things. And eventually the business expanded. Now it's, of course, go to China. So that's how the business started. But so it's, at the end of the day, it's about money, it's about networking, it's about people. Now, of course, I understand this, but nevertheless, a part of me who's an existentialist, if I can call myself like this, a guy who's interested in life, what's life about, what's the purpose of life, the meaning of life, health, healing, disease, and all these things. I can't help myself but wonder, well, who cares? How do you feel? How do you get a sense of satisfaction selling buttons? Anybody can sell buttons. You can sell forks, you can sell knives, you can sell dogs, you can sell horses, you can sell grains, you can sell anything. So at the end of the day, this is the merchant class. They're interested in the networking, the give and take, the moving, the action, the activity, going here, going there, connections, working with people, helping other people make money, finding ways to make the networks more sustainable, more healthy, more productive. And it's great, and I have tremendous respect for this because everything I have is due to merchants. Respect. But for me, in my brain, it didn't make any sense. So when I found something besides sports that I could say, this is me, this is what I'm interested in, which was the quest for life and resolving the mystery of life, which may sound funny to some of you. I don't like to use the word spirituality because it could mean Jesus, it could mean Muhammad, it could mean Buddha, it could mean Krishna, it could mean meditation. And I don't give a fuck about any of this. Respect to all these people that are into this and all these Messiah figures. This is nothing against that, but I don't care about any of this. My interest is to actually answer questions, existential questions that I genuinely have at the heart of my heart. So I don't care about religion. I don't care about this saint. I learn from everybody, but I'm looking for my pragmatic answers. So when I finished my drugs and my parties and all this nonsense, and my deeper anguish came to the surface and was no longer numb, as I've spoken before, let's say I was set on a path, which is the path to find answers. And that's what I cared about. And that's the only thing I care about still to this day. But that's because I was in a particular context, God bless my parents, who gave me the space. I didn't have to worry about finances. I had a job to pay basic things. I want to travel, want to go to India and this and that, buy some clothes and whatnot. But I didn't have any stress. I lived in a basement, had the whole basement to myself, had no financial stress like a lot of people may have. So they're obliged to go into the marketplace with a totally different mindset than I did. I just got a job. I could get a job here. I didn't like it, I quit. Go somewhere else. Didn't like it, I quit. I had a certain ease. And when I started to meditate 4 or 5 hours a day. Then I went to 6 hours. I don't have the interest in working at a store or a factory or any of this. Anyways, I'm mashing a bunch of things together. But anyways, so when I started meditating and focusing my attention on finding answers and discovering who I am and what life is about, the last thing on my mind was business. But eventually, I kind of grew old, and then my parents are looking at me and it's like, what you going to do? And eventually, that intense, zealous phase of, dare I say, spirituality kind of like releases, and then your like hormones are coming back online. But now you're in your 20s. I don't have a diploma. I have a bunch of years in university, but I ain't got no official diploma. And even if I didn't want to work in any of these fields. Now you want to get laid. You're not 17, 18, 19. Yeah, the girls care how you look and if you have muscles and whatnot, but they're starting to not care about this anymore. It's now starting to be about status, money, what you got, what you can provide for me. If we're going to have a family, what you're going to do. And I'm a geek who meditates and who doesn't have much. So now I was kind of obliged to start to think about money for the first time. Not because I wanted money, but because I want now my life. I want to live my life according to my terms, which was not associated with my parents or their culture or any religious or spiritual movement that I was a part of at the time. I wanted to do my way. And now I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I need to make money. So obviously I got some odd jobs here and there so that I can afford to take some trainings and whatnot. But eventually I immediately felt a conflict. My conflict was, well, I don't fucking care about this shit. How the hell am I going to work 30, 40 hours a week doing something I don't like when I love this? How do I bring them together? And that was immediately my obsession. How do I merge together what I genuinely care about to business? And what I cared about was spirituality, if we can call it like this, living spirituality. And through the process of spirituality, then I dived into the world of health, alternative health, which I can break down in 1,000 components. Go visit my website. In my bio, you can read some of it. So I started studying up on this because I had an interest in it. And then I started taking trainings in it because I wanted to get more insights. If you want to have access to teachers, at the time at least, you have to pay. Now a lot of stuff is on the internet, but it's internet stuff, it's shallow. You want to go deep, you got to pay the teachers. So I had to have money, so I had some kind of jobs. And eventually I started gathering a bunch of diplomas and doing these professions temporarily. At some point I was a massage therapist. That's before I graduated in osteopathy. So I wanted to do hands-on treatments. So I'm doing hands-on treatments. And then people coming at me because they want me to rub them. And I'm like, I'm not going to rub you. Start doing my own things. So it's not good for business. Because people want a massage, and here you are not doing a massage, exactly what they expect, and you're starting to do your things, and also exploring and mixing and matching a bunch of manual therapeutics together. It's not people want a massage. That's how you build a massage business. Let's say you do Swedish massage. It's Swedish massage. People know what to expect. You may be excellent in your Swedish massage. That's business. I wasn't a businessman. I was a guy learning, trying to make some money on the side while I continue to learn and study and start to discover and explore the realm of business, which I didn't know nothing about. So all this to say, my interest in business, which is the same for, I guess, any sane person, came when I realized I need to make my money so I can have, this is the key word, so I can create my life the way I want to live it. So some people arrive at this much earlier in their lives. In my case, I have my own rhythm and my own tempo. But I couldn't separate. So anyways, I'm sorry, I'm mashing a bunch of things together. So I opened the field of business and entrepreneurship and strategies to make money, which I knew nothing about, or almost nothing. My father worked as a professional, he owned real estate and whatnot, but I was always far from this. I had no interest in it. So suddenly all that world opened up to me, but there was a genuine appetite or thirst to study, discover. I found money fascinating. I found currency fascinating. I found I was interested in the science of money. I wasn't interested in money itself. How does money work? What is money? That's me. I can't help myself. What is money? How does money work? So how is this person scheming and making money? What's their business model? What's their business model? What's their business model? I started being interested in the mechanics of how people make money. And then it brought me to other strategies and and I started to see the common denominator between all the different business approaches. Greed. No disrespect to greed, I'm just saying, right? Especially in a modern marketplace. And then online businesses and how to build online businesses. And so I started just studying. I got my education, my finance, marketing, business and administration education on the field, studying other people, trying and error, doing a bunch of things. At some point I sold fruits. I'm like, I'm not going to sell fruits. The margin of profit is too small. But I sold organic fruits at school. And I remember I was in osteopathy school. I'm like, I'm going to hustle. I'm going to sell raspberries and organic fruits. And I started to realize, you know how many raspberries I got to sell to make money? Well, I'm not going to do this. Fuck it. That's a lot of work to make just a little bit of money. So my mind then started to think in, well, technically how an entrepreneur thinks, a good entrepreneur. So if I invest this amount of time, how much money can I make? And now if I want to multiply that, and then you see what people are doing. So this guy is buying a house, flipping it over. I bought houses. I don't like this. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. I'm not a hands-on person. I don't fucking care about houses. Anyways, what I'm trying to put a lot of things together. And what I want to highlight is that for myself, as I studied business, I could never separate me, what I'm passionate about, and business. If business and me are two things, I'm not happy. I have to find a way to bring them together. And the more I discovered with myself, the more I realized, well, I'm a complex individual. I have a lot of personas or parts of my personality, and now that means I'm going to have to do a lot of businesses so that I can satisfy this, I can satisfy that, I can satisfy this, I can satisfy that. But at the time, I was only focused on health and healing, and dare I say spirituality. So I wanted to translate this into business. So now, obviously, you have to be an expert. So I was young in the field. Even if you're in your 20s, even if I'm talented, you're still young. You don't have enough experience, so you have to build the experience, which takes time, while I'm in parallel learning how to build a business with the responsibilities that come with it. And then there's like a bunch of admin shit. I don't do admin. But at the time, I don't have any person doing admin. So then you don't totally do admin. Then your business stagnates because without admin, shit is not contained. Things aren't efficient. So then you're like, fuck. Then you start to have respect for admin. Then you need an admin person, which means you got to deal with another person. Begin the game of employees or partners or women in your life. And it's right. So I'm like, I got a girl. You're going to do the admin. You're going to send the newsletters. Like, I know how to do them. You're going to MailChimp that. But then you got to deal with her now and her moods and her swings and this and that. Oh my God. All I just want to do was teach, right? That's all I wanted to do originally. I want to share what I'm passionate about. This is before YouTube became YouTube and became big and an international thing. I just want to share what I care about. And I want to teach people who are interested in what I have to say, how to put this in practice. Now I got to take care of all this fucking nonsense. I don't care about marketing. I do have a passion for marketing, but I don't fucking care about it. I don't care about websites. Oh, you know how many websites I've done? Easily 30 over the past, 17 years now. Every phase of my evolution had a website. I was obsessed with websites like fashion. It's like, no, it's not good anymore. New logo, new this. Just so I learned so much through the process because I'm that person. I learn on the field. I like to make mistakes so I can learn more. I'm obsessed with mistakes so I can learn obsessively. I don't remember what the question was, but the point is I got interested in business, namely and at the heart of, because I want to live my own life under my terms. And also, and the second part is because I had a heart something, knowledge. And I really had it hard to share that knowledge with people. And in the modern world, it's not I can go out on a rock and scream. No, I had to use business as the tracks, the dissemination tracks, to get the knowledge into people's hands. Knowledge is, you can transform knowledge into information and sell information like you could sell chocolate. So I had to learn how to convert knowledge into information. And at first I was, of course, a purist, so I'm like, I ain't converting fucking knowledge into information. It's like taking a raw cacao bean and make it into like a chocolate syrup or something that you can put in a caramel bar. It's two different things. So as a purist, you're like, I will never. And then you realize nobody wants to eat your shit because it's too pure, it's too intense, it's too this. It's not nobody, a few people. So, and then you realize that, well, I could, if I transform the knowledge in information, then it can help more people, but then it gets diluted. So I start to lose interest in teaching because it's a diluted version of what I'm passionate about. So now I'm going to need students who can become teachers or instructors who can then disseminate the information in my stead, because I ain't going to diminish myself, dare I say, at the level of being an instructor. I don't instruct, I'm a teacher. Anyways, so now I had to train teachers. Anyways, I told you I'm matching a bunch of things. The point is, my interest in business came because I wanted to live my life under my terms, under my condition, but I'm very anal with this. I would never compromise myself. I will never whore myself under no circumstances. I will never do something I don't want to do. That's just who I am. And it has to serve a greater plan in my heart, in my intention. I don't want to say my soul, but at a spiritual level, there needs to be a link. And it has to all tie together into one. And if I don't have that cohesiveness, I ain't fucking doing it, because it has no meaning for me. And the meaning for me is number one. So like I said, and this is no disrespect to people who are merchants, because I'm a merchant also nowadays. I got business that merchandises. Nevertheless, it fits in my macro vision, it fits somewhere. So that part of me that's a hustler, that wants to hustle and slang dope, in other words, sell products, I can do that, but it fits in a grander picture. And if without the picture, I'm not able to do it because there's no meaning. And when I don't have any meaning, I'm not motivated. I cannot force myself to do something if I'm not inspired. And money for me is not an inspiration. Some people are inspired by money. Good for you if that's the case. I am not inspired by money. I've never been inspired by money. I'm inspired by something that's aligned with my purpose, my life path, and that allows me to serve a greater good. And I appreciate the person who makes sure that I got buttons on my shirt. But for me, that's not my dharma, if we can put it this way. No disrespect to the person who's selling buttons. It's just not for me. I'm not a button pusher. No disrespect, but just so that we're clear. So that's my situation. So we can say that I got interested in the science of business because I started to realize that, well, number one, you want to have access to knowledge, wonderful, which I do. Then knowledge arrives at a certain place where you now need to disseminate the knowledge. And the process of disseminating knowledge requires a form of business or a machine that's able to spread it. And that machine is a business. You can call it a not-for-profit organization. It's a business. I didn't say non-profit. I said not-for-profit. It generates millions of dollars. It's not for-profit, if you understand what I mean. But it's still a business. So if I want to spread the love that I have for health, healing, yoga, spirituality, tantra, for the love of knowledge, then I had to learn how to create business. So that was my interest. And then I realized, well, everything is everything. So at the end of the day, it's fine. And I can learn how to navigate through this. And more importantly, there's so many pieces coming together. So as a teacher, there's a group of people that come around you that learn, that love what you teach, that want to continue to learn what they're learning, and then eventually want to teach on their own. So now suddenly there's people around you, and then they want to optimize their lifestyle instead of working random jobs that have no meaning, and they exhaust themselves. Because when you do something you don't like, it sucks the fucking soul out of you. So then you're not motivated to do your spiritual practice or your meditations or whatever, the inner work, because you're depressed. You want to go eat depressive food and watch depressive TV. So when you're surrounded with these people who are looking for an optimal way to live and want to find an alignment, which alignment equals health, then eventually we get to, well, how are you going to generate? Generative power, which is the foundation of the health. Because without generative power, if your generative power is jammed, there is no health and there's certainly no healing. So then eventually, generative power, generation, how can that person start to make a living in a way that's aligned for themselves? So they're looking at you. I started as the medicine man, the doctor, the teacher, and now as a doctor and teacher, I need to create a new department in my school, if we say, which then trains people to be able to apply what they've learned in a way that's unique to themselves so that they can generate money, business for themselves in a way that's aligned and allows them to continue to grow on their dharma, their life path. If you're able to follow, hit that thumbs up. If you're good, if you follow, great. I'm happy for you. So I put a bunch of things together. I hope you enjoy. Yeah, I'm going to continue. So it's imperative, I guess, for whoever is listening to this to understand there are different kinds of people. I'm a, we can say, medicine man, shaman, healer, some kind of priest that's not Catholic, if that makes any sense to you. That's what I'm designed to do. That's what I naturally do. So there are people who are designed to be merchants, and part of my crew has merchant class minded people. And I work in collaboration with them and help them align themselves and find health within this. But me, I'm me. You understand? And everybody has to figure out and discover who they are, what's their natural proclivity. Is that the word? Everybody has to do that, and that's part of the healing process. So as I'm speaking, I'm telling you my story, not so that you emulate it, but you understand the importance, or at least how in the world of health, you need to discover who and what you are, and you need to respect that and live in integrity with it, with what you are, with your nature. So that's my process. There was no way in hell I'm going to invest my energy and my life energy doing something that is not what I'm designed to do. I can't sell buttons because my whole interest in life is the study of health, healing, and practical spirituality, if we can call it like this, which is essentially how to help a human being become a more integral, peaceful, harmonious human being that is connected to Earth, to the current times, and a greater vision of time. That's what I do. So if I'm going to invest energy in the horizontal, that means to transmit, to be in relation to people, to connect, to create networks, it must be connected to what I care about. If it's not, so I'm immediately depressed because I don't feel inspired. It doesn't connect to me, right? And for me, this is imperative. That's why I said some people are merchants. They love merchanting. They don't care. They're the mercantile class. They love being merchants. So they can hustle and move anything. That's just their dharma. That's who they are. That's not who I am. Business came second for me as a way to actualize myself in the material world, in a way to make my school and my system more complete and to better serve my community and my students who eventually need to also make money, but would like to apply the principles of health and healing with money, if you understand what I'm saying. So everybody has their own nature. That's my nature. And a lot of people will resonate with what I'm saying, no matter at what level they're operating. To bring things together is imperative. So it's not really about business anymore. We can call it business. It's about how can I share what I love with others in the hope of serving them, alleviating their suffering, their pain, and making their lives better. The service, which is what I spoke about in my first session on business. Business is service at the essence. Today it's not. It's a hustle. It's how I can take your money and give you nothing. But at the essence is I'm going to give you some of my time. I'm going to give you what's precious that I've cultivated in exchange for what you've cultivated. If I spend all my time studying in health, healing, and all those things, it makes me a specialist. It makes me an expert. You may not have that natural inclination. You may have an inclination to grow the greatest vegetables in alignment with the cycles of nature that I need to eat to become the smartest, most capable healer, doctor that I am. Without that food, I'm screwed. But if I have to now cultivate my own food, how am I going to have the time to do my esoteric studies? I'm not. So we need each other. And for me, that's the very essence of pure business. I can empower your work with my knowledge, make you more efficient, more in tune, more vibrant, more aligned, so that now when you cultivate a seed, you're bringing that life force and your connection to nature around you into that. Your intention. What really makes grow a seed is your attention. And that's the secret of medicine. It's my attention. It doesn't matter. You're brewing a soup and I'm brewing a soup. The difference is attention. Nefes, the breath, my attention. So you help that gardener, farmer, food grower to become an optimal vessel of nature to grow food so that he can then feed you. That is going to make you now more powerful. I pay thousands of dollars a year for the most pristine herbs humanly possible and that purchasable. Most pristine herbs. Without these herbs, my life doesn't work. God bless the people who are growing these herbs. God bless the elements of nature who are making these herbs so potent. And I have to say, even God bless all the transportation, because some are grown far away so that they get to me. So this is a form of merchant class, but it's not the point is everything comes together. And for me, it's imperative, and that's the difference between a regular person and a person who's healthy or aligned, is that what you got to do is got to be the expression of yourself. And that's really where health and business come together for me. It's two sides of the same coin. What you're passionate and you love and you develop has to be transformed into a service. Service for me is business. Now I understand that for a lot of people, business can be something else. And I respect that, I can understand that. But at the end of the day, it's business. Business is to serve people. And you serve people with who and what you are and what you've developed and what you've cultivated. And that's the key.